Whether you agree with it or not, Combine Week is here, and that means we have got some massive changes coming up to player values. Who runs the fastest 40? Who does the best cone drill? Who out there has the most accuracy at the quarterback position? All these little things are going to be nitpicked this week, so before that happens, let's jump into Mock Draft 2.0. Keep in mind that with these mock drafts, nobody on YouTube likes watching 35, 45-minute videos. So I am not going to go through every single pick in this video. If you are wanting an extreme breakdown though, I've got a members only video coming later in the week that's going to go step by step, pick through every single one, breaking it down more in depth for you. But for now, the number one pick is on the clock, and just like the last mock draft, I've got the Indianapolis Colts jumping up to select Bryce Young. The Indianapolis Colts need their franchise quarterback, and it's not going to take much to jump up from 4 to 1 to then put the Houston Texans in a position where they have to have their sloppy seconds. I do think that Bryce Young continues to be the safest quarterback in the class, and Indianapolis, for that reason, will go with him, even though my quarterback one is still CJ Stroud. At the second overall pick, I'm still not convinced that the Houston Texans don't go defense here and then do something with their next first round pick to try and get a quarterback. DeMeco Ryans' new head coach for the Texans is a defensive-minded guy, and Will Anderson, probably the safest prospect with the most upside, and this entire draft is going to be on the board here for them. But hearing from Houston Texans fans when I did my last mock, everybody wants a quarterback. So I said, you know what? Let's talk about a potential quarterback, and I do think that if the Texans were to go with somebody here, that they get pulled into this Will Levis vibe that's going on right now, and they end up drafting him instead of CJ Stroud, which personally I wouldn't agree with. Levis seems to be shooting up draft boards right now, very similar to the way Zach Wilson did a couple of years ago. I'm not sold on him as a prospect, but there are some teams out there that really feel like the sky is the limit with him. In this mock, I've got the Las Vegas Raiders coming up with the Seattle Seahawks to get their quarterback of the future, my quarterback one, CJ Stroud. After moving on from Derek Carr and Tom Brady retiring, Las Vegas is in a position where they need a quarterback, and their number one option is no longer there. So do you sign a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you still try and trade for a guy like Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so. Spend the capital in the draft and come up and get who I believe is the guy with the most upside at the position that you need most. Jumping to pick 9, the Carolina Panthers. I don't love this pick for them here. I'm going Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. And I love Richardson. I think that this is a guy that in a couple of years' time could be a big-time quarterback, very similar to the growth that we've seen from Jalen Hurts. Now, the reason that I don't love it for Carolina is because I would much rather Carolina go with a guy that's a little bit more ready right now. I think Richardson might need a year or two to firmly grasp the speed of the NFL game, work on some of those issues that he might have with accuracy, and then at that point, I think he could take off and be a really good player. But Carolina needs a quarterback. They need the quarterback of the future. They've been trying to find him with all these worn tread guys and people that other teams are setting off right now. They've tried picking up Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and none of it is working. Draft your guy in this draft, please. Get him, start developing him so Frank Wright has a guy to look forward to in a year. In my last mock draft, I also had Bijan Robinson going to the Philadelphia Eagles, but here I'm going to have him going at the 10th pick instead of later in the first round. I do think that there is a possibility that we see Bijan Robinson take a little bit of a fall, but the Philadelphia Eagles are probably moving on from Miles Sanders, and they've got Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, but is that anything crazy to get excited about? This team, if you put Bijan Robinson in the backfield, I don't know who is stopping this offense. This is a little bit of a fun pick here, but also in the same stance, if Bijan Robinson goes to Philadelphia, Philadelphia's offense is the best in the league, or at least top 3. With their second first rounder, the Houston Texans, I already gave them a quarterback. Let's give them a wide receiver now. Quentin Johnston out of TCU. If the Texans truly do use the second overall pick on a quarterback, he's going to need some weapons. Brandon Cooks likely will be headed out of town. They need a big-bodied, physical outside wide receiver, which is exactly what Quentin Johnston is. Now, Johnston might not be my wide receiver one, but I do believe that he might be the best fit here for the Texans if they decide to go this route. At 14 overall, the New England Patriots, well, Quentin Johnston would be best for them right here. Instead, since he's gone, we go with my wide receiver one, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Offensively, last year was a disaster for the Patriots. Why in the world would you employ an ex-defensive coordinator as your offensive coordinator? It didn't work and it showed. Now you've got a true offensive guy, Bill O'Brien, who might not be able to make trades for crap, but can certainly still coach and knows how to run an offense. Mac Jones needs weapons. You invested a first-round pick in this guy 2 years ago. Give him what he needs so he can take that year 3 leap that we've seen from a lot of other quarterbacks. Green Bay Packer fans, I don't know how you're going to feel about this one, but I'm going to go Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame. I think he's an absolute perfect offensive weapon, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love at the quarterback position. The dude is an excellent blocker, so he can help out the offensive line a little bit, help open up some holes for Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but he could also be that big-bodied guy in the middle of the field that can help in those areas where we've seen guys like Romeo Doubs fail. Even last year, the tight end position, oh man, it was a disaster. Nobody was able to control the middle of the field. Big Bobby Tunyon could not get it done. Allen Lazard doesn't really fit the bill. They need somebody to go over the middle. This is the guy to do it. At 17 overall, I've got Dawand Jones, offensive tackle out of Ohio State, going to the Steelers. A lot of people are probably going to say his teammate, Paris Johnson Jr., is the offensive tackle number 1 in this draft class, and that's fine, but I've got Dawand Jones number 1. He's got huge size, great length. This dude is an absolute beast on the offensive line, and he moves just as nimbly as any other offensive lineman. He's got the speed and size combo that you want. And the best part about this fit right here, he is an amazing run blocker, and that is what Pittsburgh needs to do. They need to run the ball better with their guy, Najee Harris, to take some of the pressure off Kenny Pickett. Pittsburgh, do me a favor, do your fans a favor. It's not a sexy pick. It's the best pick for you, though. The Detroit Lions are going to get an absolute steal with their second first-round pick. My favorite defensive player in this draft, Brian Bresee, interior defensive lineman out of Clemson. For those of you that are members, I did a film breakdown on Bresee the other day for you, and let me tell you what, I am excited about this guy. The Detroit Lions are going to get an absolute gift here, because if it weren't for the injuries that he's had in college, he would be a top 5 player in this draft. This dude is explosive. He gets after the run game. He can cause confusion and chaos in the middle of any interior line. I absolutely love Bresee, and I think he's going to be a big-time game changer. Yes, staying healthy is going to be the key, but if he is, he's going to be a steal for the Lions. At 22 overall, I'm going to go with Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC, to the Los Angeles Chargers. I could see the Chargers going the Cincinnati Bengals route this season. Add as many offensive weapons as possible to give your quarterback the best shot at throwing the football and winning big games. Jordan Addison, to me, is not a wide receiver 1 overall type player that's going to stand on the outside and beat the best cornerbacks in the leagues. But guess what? You've got Mike Williams, who's always going to be out there, well, at least through the end of his contract if he's healthy. You still got Keenan Allen there, who should still be there through at least this season. And even if that were not to happen, you can put Josh Palmer on the outside opposite of either of these guys. Putting Addison in the slot is going to be huge for the Chargers this season. Last year, Gerald Everett really controlled the middle of the field. He is going to be gone. Now let Jordan Addison, who might not be the most physical wide receiver in the draft, but has really good footwork and can be explosive, he'll be good with his routes over the middle of the field. The Baltimore Ravens, after getting rid of Marquise Brown, were sorely missing speed on the outside. Tennessee's Jalen Hyatt is going to help replace that. Yes, I think Rashad Bateman can be a wide receiver 1, but I don't think he can be as successful if they're telling him that he needs to go streak down the field and be the guy taking the top off. And he can't. That's not his game. And they don't have anybody else to replace what Marquise Brown did. That's why Jalen Hyatt in the first would be huge for that offense, especially if you're going to pay Lamar Jackson. Get him some weapons and set him up for some huge success. Not only that, but then you open up the middle of the field for the run game and Mark Andrews to really dominate again this season. There's a good chance that Josh Downs out of North Carolina could end up falling into the second round. I do think he has first round potential though. The New York Giants are going to need a wide receiver. I think this is a match made right here. Josh Downs is a little bit overlooked in this draft class. I do think he has the potential to come in and help any offensive scheme possible. And the thing about the New York Giants is if you're going to pay Daniel Jones this offseason, he needs some wide receiver help. Kenny Golladay hasn't done anything. Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins was pretty good last year at times, but is he a wide receiver alpha that you can depend on? He's not. And Darius Slayton can take the top off teams, but he's also not very dependable. You need to go get a guy that is a big game playmaker that can win all over the field, that can do it from the slot or the outside. It doesn't matter. Get this man some weapons, and hopefully your offense will be a little more consistent next season. At 29 overall, the Cincinnati Bengals have a lot of different things that they could do, and this might actually shock you here, but I'm going to go ahead and again, just predict a few things and play out some different scenarios. Let's talk about Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia. If Cincinnati decides to address the tight end position in round 1, I would love to see him get Michael Mayer, but in this mock, he doesn't fall that far, and quite honestly, I don't think he falls that far anyway if we're talking about real life scenarios and not just a mock. So for me, I'm going to go Darnell Washington because they don't need a guy at the tight end position that is strictly a receiving weapon. They need a guy that can block as well. And behind Mayer, Washington might be the best blocking tight end in a very deep tight end class. I do believe he is a first round talent. He's been overshadowed by some of the other weapons at Georgia, but he is a huge big bodied guy on the end of that line that can either help open up some holes for Joe Mixon or he can help protect Joe Burrow. Also, he can go out and give Joe Burrow another weapon to use that would be a really big help, especially if they were to trade T. Higgins. At 32 overall, it's supposed to be the Kansas City Chiefs, but I am actually going to mock the Houston Texans, who are only a few picks into the second round, to come up here and take this pick from KC, and they're going to use it to grab out of Auburn, Derek Hall. We went with 2 offensive position players to begin this mock for Houston. They need help on defense as well. I like Derek Hall. I think he's a very under the radar edge, a guy that is going to go get after the quarterback. He might not be a complete edge rusher, a guy that's going to help stop the run as much as you would like. He is a high motor physical guy that you're going to say, hey, go get the quarterback for me, and he's going to do it. And in that division, oh man, you're going to have to get good after some quarterbacks. So for the Houston Texans, yes, I'm going to go with them jumping back up into the first round to help address some of the defensive issues that they need to. Yo, ladies and gentlemen, like always, it's just a mock draft. We do it to play out different scenarios. Nothing about this is going to stick, and I will produce my final prediction-based mock draft right before the real draft takes place. The boys are going to be down in Indianapolis at the Combine all week, so keep an eye out for that content coming your way. Hit the like button for me, subscribe if you're new here, leave a comment, talk to me about your team and what you thought about the pick that I put for them, and I'll see y'all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.